Chapter 6. Ready for more. Only one person was unimpressed. Mike was throwing out his garbage just before the bell rang when a ball of tinfoil bounced off his head and into the trash. "Nice trick," Jackson said. "Didn't fool me, though. I know just what you did." Was he even watching, Mike wondered? And how would Jackson know anything about magic? "Oh, really? Just wait till next time," Mike said, bluffing. "Next time," Jackson laughed. "There's more." "You won't believe what I can do," said Mike. "Can't wait to see this," said Jackson. "I'll need a front row seat." Shaking his head, he went to join the rest of his class. Next time, Mike thought. He liked the sound of that. All afternoon, kids were high-fiving Mike in the hallway. He didn't care that he struck out playing kickball during gym. He didn't care that Mrs. Canfield gave him a warning for leaving his reading minutes at home. The only thing that could get him down was Jackson. He was hanging around the back door after school. When he saw Mike meet up with Nora, he beamed. No way they'd get away from him now. "You're walking home with your girlfriend?" Jackson asked Mike. He zoomed past them on his flame-covered bike, then circled back around, falling under her magic spell. Luckily, Mike and Nora lived close to school. They didn't have to put up with him for long, but Jackson's eyes lit up when he saw them walk up to the same house. Mike had a feeling Jackson wouldn't let him forget it for a long time. "Have fun at your play date," he mocked. Jackson made some gross kissing sounds as he pedaled off toward his house, right around the corner. "Talk about awkward." "Sorry," Mike said as Nora unlocked the door. "For what?" asked Nora. "He's just a bully." "He's been after me all day," Mike said. Actually, Jackson had been after him for a lifetime, but Nora didn't need to know that. "I probably saw your magic trick at lunch," said Nora. "He can't stand to see anyone do anything he can't do." Nora had only known Jackson for a few weeks, so how did she get that already? Maybe she was even smarter than Mike thought. Nora opened the fridge looking for snacks. "You did a great job, by the way," she added. "I love the trick. But can I give you one piece of advice?" That was the last thing Mike wanted, but what could he say? "Okay." "You need a better magic word." "I know," he said, laughing. He'd have to ask Mr. Zerlin about that. "Hey, Nora," said Mike as she handed him a yogurt. "I'm sorry about the trick." "What?" she asked. "The way I got to learn it, but you left the store." Nora shrugged. "That riddle made no sense to me at all, so I didn't think he would teach me anything. It's totally fine. I don't think magic is my thing." She let it go, just like that. It took Mike's breath away. Magic wasn't her thing? Well, maybe it was his. Then Nora's mom came downstairs. "How about we go to the library?" she said, mostly to Nora. Turned out Nora had a giant bag of books to return, more books than Mike had read in the past 2 years. The library had never been his favorite place, not since he got too old for stories with pictures. Kids his age were always reading books that were 2 inches thick, but Mike couldn't deal with those. By the time he got to the middle, he couldn't remember what had happened at the beginning. What he liked most were comic books, but that section of the library was pretty small. Nora sat at a computer with a list of titles. She looked them all up one by one while Mike started his homework. When he saw his parents, they would check that it was finished. "Has your class started doing book reports yet?" Nora asked him. Mike had a bad feeling about that. Those reading minutes. What was he supposed to be reading anyway? Was it a book for a project? He really couldn't remember. "I don't think so," Mike said. She looked at him curiously. "All the 4th grade classes are doing them. What kind of books do you like to read?" "I don't know," Mike said. "Books with a lot of action, I guess." "What about books on magic?" Nora suggested. She was full of good ideas. "I can find them for you," Nora added helpfully. Turned out there was a whole section on magic. Mike found a book of magic tricks and a biography of Harry Houdini, master magician and escape artist. With books like these, even Mike could manage a book report. Reluctantly, he returned to his homework. As soon as he'd written out the final spelling word, he started to think about the next trick he'd do at school. A coin trick or a card trick? He couldn't decide. Was he ready for a grand escape? The books could tell him all he needed to know. But the librarian at the counter handed his card back when he tried to check out. "The system says you have a lost book," until you pay for it, I'm afraid you can't take anything else." That book, full of sports facts, wasn't lost at all. Mike was pretty sure it was under his bed, but he wouldn't be able to get it back in time to check out the magic books today. "I'll put them on hold for you," the librarian said kindly. "You can come and get them tomorrow or whenever you're ready." Mike was quiet on the trip home. He was really disappointed. He took out his spelling words and pretended to look them over so he wouldn't have to talk to Nora. What kind of kid couldn't manage to return a library book, he wondered. He cheered up when his dad got home. Proudly, he showed off his finished spelling sheet, and now he could try his trick again. "I have something to show you," Mike told his dad, leading him to the living room couch. "You stay here." Mike stood on the other side of the coffee table and made another styrofoam cup float up. He could do it with a little less preparation now, and he added some stage talk, too. "Hold on now, don't fly away," he said to the cup. "Don't leave me." He made it look like the cup was headed for the ceiling. "Impressive," said Mr. Weiss. Mike told him, "I did it in the cafeteria today at school. People really believed I was powerful." "Where'd you learn to do that?" his dad asked. "From the magician who owns the White Rabbit," said Mike. "The antique store?" said his dad. "Well, sort of, but there's a different room hidden in the back where you can get stuff to do magic tricks." Suddenly he thought of something. The library had closed by now, but there were probably books at the White Rabbit, too. "Dad, do you think you could take me there? I think it's open pretty late. There's something I want to get." His dad checked the time. "I just got home, Mike. I have to cook tonight. I have a big day tomorrow." He hadn't said no. "It will be really quick," Mike promised. "I can pay for it myself." Sometimes that convinced his dad, and Mike had emergency funds in an old pair of sneakers. "You can even wait in the car if you want." His dad sighed. "All your work is done?" There was that confusion about the book report. Mike didn't know when it was due. He didn't even know if he was supposed to be doing it. "All taken care of," he assured his father. He'd figure it out later. Mike's dad took his keys from his jacket pocket. "Let's go before Mom gets home." The car pulled up outside the White Rabbit just as it was starting to get dark. The street lights flipped on, and Mike could see Mr. Zerlin inside, turning lights off. He looked like he was in a hurry. Mike knocked on the door, which was already locked. He waved wildly until Mr. Zerlin spotted him. "Are you closing?" Mike called through the glass. "I just wanted to get something really fast." "Ready for more?" asked Mr. Zerlin. Again, Mike had that weird feeling that the magician knew what he was thinking. "Yes," he called. "I did the trick at school, and it was perfect." "I must hurry," said Mr. Zerlin. He stepped outside the door and closed it behind him. He wasn't letting Mike in after all. "But I thought you might like this." He pressed something into Mike's hands and scurried down the street, calling over his shoulder, "Now you see me. Now you don't."